queers. What's on the big gay agenda today, Theora?
Today is book club. Woo!
Woo!
All right, for today's book club, we will be discussing the latest installment of Heartstopper, Volume 5 by Oseman. We are covering this because we obviously love Heartstopper. Just go back and look at our content. We have many, many Heartstopper episodes.
So many.
So many, because we just need to talk about this show / book because it's incredible. So we hope this helps tide you over until season 3 if you've been following us for our TV discussions, because I can guarantee that part of this will be in season 3 for sure. So we're going to talk about the book, and then we're probably going to speculate on what's going to go on in season 3. If you haven't read Heartstopper Volume 5, it's actually online for free if you just we can link the webtoon. So apparently Alice releases it early as a webtoon because that's how Heartstopper started. So you can go read all the books if you want for free on the internet, and we can link it below. So go read it. It takes an hour to read it. It's a graphic novel. It's a very easy read. If you're not into that, we will give a spoiler-free review in the beginning so you know what you're getting yourself into, and then when we jump to the spoilers, we will let you know when we get there if you don't want to be spoiled. Before we jump into that, we would like to introduce our new host today. We have Alana here.
Alayne,
I'm so sorry.
That's just every first day of school in my life, Theora. It's fine. It's always Alan, Alayne, Alania. I'm so used to it, so no worries.
You get called Alan?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Oh man.
If you can spell it right, you can't pronounce it right, but if you can pronounce it right, you can't spell it right. That's just been the curse since I was born.
As somebody with a weird name, I totally feel that.
Yeah.
I always knew it was me in the roster when there was a long pause. I was like, that's me. Because they're first name, I don't know. Last name, I don't know. And I was like, yep.
I'd have people who've known me for 3 years in high school, and they'd still call the roster, and they wouldn't get my name right. I'm like, seriously, guys? You've known me for how long?
Yeah,
It's
spoiler. Alayna's name actually ends with an E, not an A. But she decided she doesn't want to add the E.
I don't have issues when it's spelled like this. That's the funny part.
Except what Theora's saying.
It's fine.
Oh, to be fair, I have it with an E in the notes. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are so excited that the audience gets to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And before we get into the episode, of course, I have to go through my giant spiel that I do in every episode, or almost every episode, because we forget sometimes. Okay, ready? If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and drop a comment to share your thoughts. We absolutely love hearing from you. For our podcast listeners, please download this episode and leave a review if you can. Your engagement helps us reach a broader audience and spread the joy of queer content. For even more exclusive queer content, early access to videos, and full reaction videos, join us on Patreon. Dive into discussions on our Discord channel where we enjoy connecting with all of you. Explore our merchandise at biggayenergypod.com to show your support. All links will be in the description. Lastly, stay connected with us on all social media platforms by following @BigGayEnergyPod. Your interactions mean the world to us, and these actions contribute to our ongoing celebration of queer media and advocacy for better representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaitlynn.
All
right. So, would you like to introduce Heartstopper, Volume 5?
Who are you talking to?
You wrote the synopsis.
Oh, did I? That's right. So, according to Google, Nick and Charlie are in love. They finally said those 3 little words, and Charlie has almost persuaded his mum to let him sleep over at Nick's house. He wants to take their relationship to the next level, ... But can he find the confidence he needs? And with Nick going off to university next year, is everything about to change? What a conundrum. That is the synopsis.
That is the synopsis.
Volume 5 by Alice Oseman.
Alice Oseman.
Thank you.
So, okay, so if you've read the book, all of the graphic novels to this point, this volume happens before the Nick and Charlie novella, which is basically takes place as Nick's about to go to university. So this is kind of like the lead up, And spoiler, there's going to be a volume 6. So this isn't the last Heartstopper volume, which is really exciting because I think it was supposed to be, but Alice is like, it's such a big universe. I need one more volume. So there's going to be a total of 6 in the graphic novel series, but then she has a couple of novellas about Nick and Charlie also. So like, this isn't the end, but we're almost at the end, which is a little sad.
What are the odds that she writes 6 and is like, oh, but it's not enough?
I think people would love that. Okay, so all right, so spoiler-free review. So without spoiling anything, what, in your own words, like, what did you think of this book overall? Did you like it and that kind of stuff?
I was prepared for this. Okay.
Okay.
So here is my one sentence, because when I hear a brief, I think one sentence. So
yeah, one-liner.
It is a very cute and super queer book that tackles stigmatized issues in a healthy way.
I agree. Yeah. Elena, what do you think?
I think it stays true to the Heartstopper vibes. It does tackle issues that don't really get talked about, especially in teen media, especially that are becoming more and more addressed, specifically with queer teenagers. And it's in a very healthy light that, you know, as she said, doesn't stigmatize, doesn't make it feel like it's taboo. It's just teenagers being teenagers. So
yeah, I agree. I think everything you guys just said, and I'll add, there's like a lot of discourse going on that I've seen recently in like book social media about like YA in general, where like I have an issue with this too, where it's like it caters to 30-year-olds. It caters to like my demographic instead of like the demographic it's supposed to be, which is minors. And I think that Alice truly writes actual YA with like, these are minors, like they're not 18, they're younger than that, and they're figuring out life and like transitioning into adulthood. And I think this book is a stellar example of like what YA actually is and should be, because Alice really keeps that audience in mind, like you said. And I think that's why it feels very healthy the way she writes a lot of the topics, like the mental health stuff, the Nick and Charlie trying to take their relationship to the next level. It's written for the audience it's intended to, and I absolutely love that about her writing. I think that she just nails it. It's not like creepy, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it can be like really creepy, but I think it's very sweet and it's felt authentic the way she wrote every piece of that. And honestly, I really hope the TV show adapts it in the style in which she wrote it, like to keep that audience in mind and stay true to like the ages of Nick and Charlie and their friend group.
You said it's not creepy, but like if you grow up with the type of content that they're catering towards the older age group, creepy. You think it's normal. So
it's not normal. No. When people are out here being like, red, white, and royal blue is YA, I'm like, how? They're in their mid-20s. What are you talking about?
The author even says it's not YA. Casey McQuiston has even said it's not YA. It's an adult book. So
yeah, and I'm like, how? And like that's the perception. Like that's why I'm like, no, it's not. That's like adult books. Yeah. Like Heartstopper is YA. Percy Jackson is YA, and like Rick Riordan's another one who writes actual true YA for the audience it's meant to. And so I like that, because honestly, I think that going back to like, I know this isn't brief, Kaitlynn, but going back to like the stigmatizing piece, like I think it's important for actual young adults like transitioning into adulthood to learn about a lot of these topics that was covered in volume 5 about like exploring your sexuality, like physically and things like that, and having those conversations, because oftentimes it's like, no, they're children, you can't talk about that. So then like people are on YouTube or like floundering to figure stuff out and make mistakes, but like having conversations in a healthy way, in an age appropriate way, I think is something huge that like YA can do really well, like putting it in a fictional story. And I think Alice consistently throughout her books really handles topics like mental health and like how to communicate with your family, like when you're the minor. Like she does those things so beautifully, and the conversations in it are just, they feel so real. So like I appreciate her writing so much for that, because I wish I had this when I was a kid and trying to like figure out like these really challenging topics that like it's weird to talk to your parents about, or like you talk to your friends and they don't know anything, they're also 16, like,
or they pretend to because that's what the media tells them.
and like American media, when it's quote YA, has like 16-year-olds acting like 30-year-olds, and like I hate that because I'm like, that's not what being 16 is. Like, and I think Alice nails it. Like all of the hard topics to like deal with, she handles them beautifully, and I think these are really important books for that aspect, and showing queer joy and love and normalizing those relationships and all those pieces. But she's such a great writer. Absolutely love it.
It is.
So, brief review, even shorter. It's a great book. Go read it.
It's fantastic. It's easy to read too. It's a graphic novel if you weren't aware. So you get like pictures of Nick and Charlie and all the characters, and it's very fast to read.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the spoiler-free review. So I think the best way to sum it all up is by rating it on the big gay energy scale. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever you want. It's not scientific. It's just based on queer love and feelings. Except Kaitlynn thinks it's scientific.
You told me it was scientific.
I was being facetious, Kaitlynn. All right. So the best way to sum it up is like, how much big gay energy did you think the book has? So we'll let Kayla go first.
Okay, so my scientific opinion, I think, yes, because like I actually was working on a scale that I forgot about. It's somewhere in here. I'll keep working on it. But it's really hard not to give Heartstopper in general a 10 because the representation is so vast and well done, and it doesn't stereotype people. People have feelings and they talk about it. It's just very well done. So it has to get a 10 just based on representation alone. Alayne, what do you think?
I mean, I kind of agree. I'd say I'm very swayed towards a 10 because Heartstopper's always been very near and dear to my heart. Heartstopper for me, it's something that's always made me feel very seen as a teenager because I was one of those teenagers. I was boring. I would go home. I would watch TV. I'd play video games. I wouldn't go out and party because I just didn't care to.
Same.
And just talking about the typical teenager things, I just wasn't interested. I was a theater kid. I didn't care about any of that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm just here. And like the scenes where they're all at a sleepover, they're eating candy. That was what my friends did. We didn't go drinking. It's like,
yeah.
But yeah, I'd say solid 10 because just I feel very seen by this series very much.
Theater kids, we party different.
We do.
We play Cards Against Humanity in a basement eating candy.
When I was in college, we would play Jackbox, and then when we weren't playing Jackbox, we'd be playing like Naughty Dog video games. One person playing and everybody else just spectating. It's like The Last of Us or Uncharted. That was like the go-tos.
Honestly, I want to do that now.
I know, right? Lie. It's so fun.
It is fun. Okay, I'm gonna be the oddball and give it a 20 out of 10 because
I didn't know that was allowed.
Like, how are you gonna give it lower than a 10? You've never done that even in the episode.
No, it's Heartstopper. I agree. You can't give it lower than a 10. I'm gonna give it a 20 out of 10 because Tori appears and I wasn't expecting it.
That's so true.
And she gets an extra 10 just by showing up. And like, I felt so satisfied by her appearance and what happens to her in this volume because like, honestly, Solitaire, like I read Solitaire after watching Heartstopper, and just that book sticks with me every single day. It's so well done and incredible, and just I love that Alice like she was always like Tori's story's been told, like I don't need to revisit Tori. So I love that she did. She's like, no, we need to wrap up Tori. And so like I thought she was done, and so that was a nice little like for Tori.
It's true.
I can't even have the words, just that.
I'm excited for more Tori and not just Diet Lemonade Tori.
I love Tori
in the next season.
So
I'm hoping that happens.
I'm very excited for the casting for Michael. It's like
yes,
so
oh
excellent.
my god, the casting for Michael. Yes, spoiler, Michael Holden's gonna be in it. Yay. All right, let's just jump into the spoilers. Everybody, we're here. If you don't want to be spoiled, stop listening. Google Heartstopper webtoon, go read the book, wait for the show to come out, whatever.
Wait for the movie.
Wait, hopefully there's a movie about Solitaire. I'd be down for that. All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd be down for adaptations of all of her work, honestly.
Honestly, yeah.
Okay. So, let's do it. Let's jump into the book. Okay. So, general likes and dislikes, and would you read this again? It was our first like talking point. Truthfully, I would read anything and have read most things that Alice has written. I truly love her writing style, whether it's in graphic novel form or like the novellas, which are just like, not short stories, but they're basically story format. her drawing skills are also just, she's so crazy talented. I love her drawings, like, and it just like it brings me joy. It warms my heart. And I, talked about this in the brief section, but like she does manage to just insert life lessons that feel very grounded and not forced into a story, which I love. A lot of like not YA literature, but like shows to me feel like they're forcing life lessons into it sometimes. Like, I don't know, but like Alice doesn't. It's very seamless and it just feels very like she's writing from a real place and it comes across that way, which I really love. I also love that in her stories, it's not like a single point of view. She manages to tell stories from different characters' points of view, characters with different backgrounds, characters from different ages. Like she inserted like the teacher plot line in there, and then like you'll have stuff from Elle, from Tori. And so you get like intersectionality. You get points of view from different people. And to me, that tells a more complete story. And you can see those life lessons from different lenses versus just seeing it from Charlie. At least in the graphic novel, it feels that way. In the novellas, they tend to be like one or two POVs. But like in this book, for example, one of the topics is like having sex for the first time as like, young adults figuring that stuff out. And she had multiple people talk about this from like committed relationship point of view. Like Tao talks about it, and then like Nick and his friend group. And there's different like people with different queer identities and like different sexualities in there having these kind of conversations together, which I think is so important and just kind of like lacking in media in general, because it does help normalize it and show that like, hey, we all have this thing in common. Or like, I like the way that topic in particular was handled, because it's like, hey, we are teenagers and don't have shit figured out, and that's okay. Like she kept it very age appropriate, which is not always the case. And so like, hats off to you, ma'am. Like you really like, her books are just so good, and they leave you with like warm fuzzy feelings at the end too. Even when she's tackling like ridiculously heavy topics, like in Solitaire, it's like depression was like the mainstay of it. Like it still like ends with like happy feelings at the end. So I love that about her writing.
Happily ever after. So this was I've never read the books, the graphic novels before. So Theora had me read 4 and 5 for this, just to get a background on what 5 was going to be about, because 4 wasn't really tackled in the show yet.
No, that will be the next season for sure.
Yeah. So this was my first introduction to the books, and I really enjoyed it. But like, obviously, since I seen the show first, I was basically just like watching it, and like the drawings helped, because so I was just like watching the actual characters do it in my head and like thinking, oh, how are they going to adapt this to the TV show? Anyway, it was a very nice and relaxing read. I mean, it could be because I was sitting in this like swingy chair in Mexico reading it, but
in style,
anyway. I brought this up before, but I really do love that the book tackles these stigmatized issues, because people don't like to talk. And luckily mental health has been getting better over the years, but I know when I was going through so much stuff when I was 13, it was just not talked about. And I felt like I was a terrible person and like I was weird and broken. But having these characters actually talk about what's going on in their heads, it's so helpful. And I hope that this allows for more conversations between peers, because you don't even want to talk to your friends sometimes about it. But knowing that like other people go through it allows you to be more comfortable. And it's not weird. Like, it's not weird to go to therapy anymore. It's just like, oh, you don't have a therapist? That's weird. What trauma do you have? Yeah, let's talk about our trauma. That's the best intro to meeting people. Anyway. But that's why I love media in general, and why I love this podcast, because like we do get to talk about these things. I also love that in Heartstopper in general, like the drama is usually external rather than the relationship drama. Like, oh, you didn't talk to me about this, and oh, I'm jealous about you going out with that friend. No, it's usually like college and, well, university and parents, all these external things that you have to deal with, rather than just like couples fighting with each other, which stresses me out. I don't know about you though.
No, I agree. It's my you heard me rant about it when we did High School Musical show. Like, when they force relationship drama, it's so annoying. Versus like Heartstopper, there's relationship like tension and quote drama with Nick and Charlie and the other couples, but it's not like you're saying, it's not just like weird forced stuff. It's like things that happen in real life. It's like we're both stressed about these things and that's causing issues. Like that's how people work. So yeah, I enjoy that. And it shows that like kids go through this stuff too. Because a lot of times like with younger people, it's like, oh, your problems aren't that big. Your problems aren't that serious. But like, yeah, they can absolutely be serious, like, and should be taken seriously. You know, it gives like validation to minors, which is important. You know,
I hate when people act like kids and like teens' problems aren't real problems. Like, yes, they're still learning life. Everything they go through is the end of the world to them because that's all they know in
that
their
is
world.
their world. Yeah.
I think my favorite part about this book was definitely kind of, I think you guys kind of touched on it, but like the whole idea that teenagers, they just want to be treated like adults. And this kind of, I think the whole series has kind of tackled it throughout the series, but I think especially in this one because of things like having sex for the first time, and like with Nick going off to university, it's this whole thing about I just want to be treated like an adult, which can be translated to I just want to be respected. That's really the long and short of it. A lot of teenagers, when they say they want to be treated like an adult, it's just they don't want to be treated with respect. Because adults are automatically respected, which when you become an adult, you kind of learn that's not true, but not necessarily. Um, but I love the way it's tackled where, like you have the prime example of Charlie's mom's trying, kinda, but Nick's mom's already there. Honestly, she's already there. Sarah Nelson.
I mean, we love Olivia Colman.
We do. She's the best.
Sarah Nelson wins like Mom of the Year. Mom of the Year for sure.
I always forget she has a name. It's just Olivia Colman to the two of us.
Sarah. Yeah, she's one of my favorites for sure. Yeah. I just love the series as a whole, so.
It's just beautiful. I wish I had that. The long and short of it is I wish I had this when I was a kid.
I know, seriously.
Yeah. So thank you, Alice, for creating this so that other little queer youths or just youths in general have this media to, learn from.
Yeah. It's important. Like these topics are it's not queer focused. It's like normal issues that teens go through. So
for sure.
It's for everybody.
It is. And it's not just like a book of fables. Like it's also just like entertaining and fun and very sweet,
Yeah. It's just teenagers being teenagers, but they're also queer.
Yeah, and I'm here for it.
Yes.
Okay, so what scenes did you enjoy and like want to scream about? I think we could just easily transition into the sex stuff because I thought that was I didn't see that coming. I thought it was really great. So specifically talking about like the way they did sex education in the book. God. Okay, so I really love this because it was portrayed in a very realistic way. Like I'm assuming, did you guys have, okay, because we grew up in America, if you're not aware and listening in America, sex education ranges from actual education to Christians coming in and trying to convert you, depending on where you live. So I'm just curious, did you guys have, quote, sex education in, like, public school, I guess, or, like, high school or lower or whatever? Like, did you guys have that? And what was your experience? What was it like, the class or whatever, if you had one?
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't have the scene that you're going to talk about in a little bit, but I remember in 6th grade, they split the boys and girls because you can't learn the same things apparently. I think we did learn the same things, but it was that the boys couldn't be trusted to be around the girls learning about it. So I don't fully remember, but I remember they gave us like diagrams of everything, like body types, and like teaching they went all in on that. I was like really surprised because we didn't do that in high school, but this was 6th grade and they were like, okay, so now this is a male anatomy and all of this, and I was like, I don't remember what we learned. I think I just kind of shut down. I was like, okay, I'm very embarrassed by this. This isn't something we talk about. And then high school health was just basically talking, don't drink and do drugs. So that was the extent of that. But we learned more about it in 6th grade, which I feel like is a little odd, but I guess
So yeah, I had like in I don't even know if it was sixth grade. I think it was like fifth grade or something. It was biology. It wasn't like sex ed. It was more like female biology, male biology. Of course, they split up the genders because that makes no sense when you're trying to learn the same thing. To like explain biology to you, but the sex, which is not sex ed, like in America, like there's biology and then there's like sex ed. So like the sex ed for me happened, I think, in high school, and it was abstinence class is what it was, where they're like, you'll have, it's basically the scene from Mean Girls where they're like, you'll get pregnant and die. Like that was my sex ed basically, and they made you
That's
sign
fair.
like an abstinence pledge. Like that was sex ed. So what they have in Heartstopper is not, I grew up in the South where like people don't have sex. Like that's the mentality. They're like, if you don't have sex, you won't get pregnant, you won't get STIs, like, and you'll be fine. And it's like that's not realistic and that's insane. So then you end up with the opposite in data wise, where you have more teen pregnancies because you're not teaching people the right stuff. So anyway, that's America. So I do love the way it was handled in Heartstopper because they were actually teaching them like lessons about sex, like how to have safe sex, basically, where it's like the condom demonstration and stuff. But I love the way it's portrayed from the kids' point of view that like ultimately what they're learning is useless because that's not what they want to know. And Charlie's like, we learned how to do the condom thing last year. Like, why are you teaching us the same thing over and over again? So it felt very much like what I learned in school, which is like the basic like nothing, where they're like, don't get STI, like sexually transmitted infections. Like, this is how you prevent pregnancy. So it was very much like, I don't know, like not super helpful. So I love that the way Alice portrayed like the kids asking all these questions to the professor, and they're like, well, what is it too young to have sex, or like how do you be good at it? Like people have all these other questions that they would like to ask, and so it shows like the curiosity of kids that age and like what they actually want to know, which is not like sexually transmitted infections, that kind of stuff. Like, so I do really enjoy that aspect of it.
I will say, it is bringing more back. We did talk more about it in high school. We also had a very cool health and gym teacher. I mean, who used to take us for field trips to get smoothies for gym. But anyway, that's not relevant. And yeah, he just let people ask. And I feel like it's important that teachers just like let the students ask whatever they want to ask, because then they're actually going to learn.
Yeah. One of the questions they asked was, how do you know when you're ready? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that is the thing that's on all of their minds, really, not so much the, I guess, the condom stuff and all that kind of questions. Especially when like that's the only lesson you get every single year. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
I have a question for our listeners, though. Did you have to go through this condom and banana thing? Because I don't know. I've never had to do it. I don't know anyone who's had to do it. So is this actually a thing, or is this just something in the media?
yeah, that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about let me know. I've never had this happen. Also, like that involves money, so it's probably like depends on what school you went to. Was there money in the budget for the bananas and etc.? Okay. All right, I want to talk about part of this too is the conversation that Nick ends up having with his friends. And I think it's with like Imogen and Imogen. I'm sorry, Sahar. Imogen's not in the books. I apologize. Sahar and in the show, I'm sure this will be Imogen because they're friends, and his other like rugby lad friends. So they're sitting together, and I think Sahar is talking about like how, you know, society makes like having sex like this big deal, and there's so much pressure to like do it, and there's this guy in the class, Marcus, that was like bragging about it, and everyone's like, do you really think he did this? Yes, no. And she's like, I don't know. Even if he did, like, there's so much pressure to like do it. He's probably just making, people are pressured to say that they've done things they haven't done. And I just love Nick's response, where he's very much like, but who cares what everyone else is doing? Like, just do what you need to do when you're ready. Like, I love that little conversation because, like, yeah, there's so much like pressure and prize put on this like biological act that's like really insane. And so I love that Nick's like, just do what makes you happy, like when you're ready, essentially, which is important, like, because like for some people, like asexuality exists. Not everybody wants to partake in this or like feels the need to partake in this, and that's also okay. So I thought this conversation was really cute and really like important to be like, do what you want at your own pace too. Don't let other people pressure you into doing things you're not ready to do.
I feel like they should also mention, like, yeah, some people don't want to, and that's okay, because I feel like because society is so, at least America's society is so sex crazed in the media, that everyone thinks like you have to want to do it. But it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I feel that big time. That was me as a teenager. It was just like, what if you just don't really care enough to want, like, everybody in your class is talking about it, and it's just like, can we talk about video games?
Yeah,
That's what
we're children.
That's what I wanted to talk about. I'm 16. I just live here. What's happening?
That is fair. At that time, I was still like, I don't like men. That's disgusting.
Also, yes. I signed that abstinence thing so fast. I'm like, have sex with men? Absolutely not. And I still stuck to that pledge.
So Theora has never broke her pledge.
I've never broken my pledge. I guess it worked, guys.
There you go. Yeah. It was like, that would require me to actually, like, want to be with somebody in my class, which, no.
That too.
No.
Like, absolutely not.
People in high school are assholes. Like, people in my school were all assholes, so I'm just like, why?
Oh my god. It's a time when people are just like little hormones walking around, and it's just like everybody's terrible, and it's like, who? No, like, wait till you're in your 20s to have your shit figured out, and people are more fully formed humans with brains that have developed more.
They are bold of you to assume that me in my late 20s still have my shit figured out, because I don't.
Oh no, I'm not saying you have to have your shit figured out. Just you're closer to it.
More of it's figured out.
But yeah, I like that this normalizes kids being kids and not being forced into adulthood, or like into certain aspects of adulthood they're not ready to. Like, it's okay to do things at your own pace, or not do them if they're not for you. So I like that Alice normalizes that by having this conversation with the friends.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything else to say before I jump to number 4, Kaitlynn? Because I already said number 3.
Oh shit. Yeah, hold on. I just think that we need more pieces of media like this to normalize that it takes time to get into this stage of relationship. Not everyone's having one night stands. I mean,
At
if you
16.
want to, good for you. But like, yeah, especially at 16, it's just not realistic. Because I don't think 16-year-olds are typically going out to a club and just like, whatever. And it doesn't matter how fast you go with someone, it just matters that you're both comfortable. And I feel like consent is getting like more relevant in the media, but like that is one of the most important things. And I feel like there really needs to be a class in school that is just focused on figuring out how you feel about just feelings in general and how to communicate. So basically, I think just everyone, the school should make everyone do group therapy. I think that would be a great addition. Just saying.
That is so crazy. Like, never in school, like with sex ed, did they ever teach about consent. That was the part that I had to learn that from like my parents, from family, from peers, never from teachers. It was always like, you know, the basics of science and abstinence and all that, and STIs and everything, but it was never about, you know, make sure that you're cool with it and that they're cool with it first before you do anything.
And like repeatedly make sure, because like there's some things that may be off limits and it's okay to withdraw consent. That I think is the most important. Is just like, just because they say okay once, that may not stay like that, so keep checking in.
Yeah.
And I love media that like checks in with people, because that is just another way to normalize it.
Yeah, I think I learned more from watching Degrassi: The Next Generation about consent than I ever learned in class. Like, there's the episode of like Paige with her boyfriend. Everybody assumes, oh well, she consented because they're dating. It's like, no, she didn't. That's the thing. It's the presumption of, oh, they're together, it's fine. No, even if it's your spouse, that's not how it works.
That is fair.
School needs to learn some things.
School, yeah, I love how the place trying to teach you needs to learn something.
The educational system needs to be educated.
And this isn't America. We can only speak to America.
Yeah.
This is our school system.
It's not just our schools. So our school system is dictated by like boards that are run by parents. And so a lot of this is parents feeling like it's not appropriate for my kid to learn this, therefore nobody can learn this. So a lot of the reasons why we don't learn these things is because parents put their own because they don't want their kids to know this, and then they won't have the conversation with their kids at home. So they'll be like, they shouldn't learn this in school, they need to learn it at home, and they don't teach the kids at home. So then everybody is robbed of the education. That's partially why we don't have these conversations. That's partially why when you have, quote, sex education, it is about the clinical health care aspect of it, because that's okay. But you can't talk emotionally, because to have the consent conversation to some parents is endorsing sex for kids and saying that it's okay. But they're like, I don't want my kids knowing that it's okay. Like, it's not okay. I don't think it's okay. So you can't teach that. So like, that's kind of how we end up in this horrible like situation. That's why they're trying to ban books and shit. Like,
yeah, I was about to say, I'd be very surprised if the students in Florida, in states like Florida, have access to Heartstopper Volume 5.
If they don't have access to the dictionary, then who knows?
Oh my god, I know, it's absurd. But yeah, so like America needs to like engage with reality, and like, so it is wild that our media, like you said, Kaitlynn, is obsessed with like sexualizing everything when the society wants to pretend it's like puritanical and repressed and like teens don't have sex. But like the media, then you have like Riverdale, and it's like that goes on for 100 seasons, and it's like just high school kids having sex. So it's like, make up your mind, like either it happens or it doesn't. And they're like, it doesn't happen, and then there's teen pregnancy. It's like, people don't want to live in reality, which I think is part of the problem, which is why I like this book and the way Alice really talks about these topics, because like these things happen, kids have these conversations, kids have these thoughts and feelings, kids are trying to figure shit out whether the parent wants them to or not. It's part of growing up, you know, and to ignore it makes it worse versus just like having an age appropriate conversation about it.
It's more harmful to ignore these questions and pretend like it's not happening.
I couldn't not agree more. So that's why I enjoy pieces of media that talk about it in an age appropriate way and demonstrate that like, yeah, kids have these thoughts, they need to talk about these things, like, you know. So speaking of that, one thing I do love about this whole like this is a queer media thing, but maybe not, but like, okay, so at one point Nick is trying to confide in somebody who isn't Charlie, and I forget if it's about he does it multiple times. It's about like the college and then like the sex stuff, and he tries to confide in somebody, and it's hard when you're like queer, especially when it comes to sex stuff, and like you're like, I want to talk to somebody about it, but like the only queer person I know who will understand it's the person I'm dating, and it's weird to have that conversation with them. So I like that Alice puts this in here, because again, one of the things I've mentioned this before in Heartstopper, but one of the things that Alice was really conscious about when she wrote this book was to show that like, just because you have romantic love and you have that dream partner, it doesn't mean all of your problems are magically solved. Like, having a boyfriend, having a girlfriend, having a partner, whatever, it doesn't solve all of your problems. Like, so Nick and Charlie throughout the course of the book, like, they're fairly codependent, which makes the whole university thing a struggle, and she really harped on that this book. And so when Nick needs somebody to really talk to who's unbiased, who isn't Charlie, I love that aspect of it, because it's important to have people you can confide in who aren't your partner about certain topics. I'm not saying to like, don't tell your partner things, but like sometimes you need to talk it through with somebody else who can see this from a different perspective, you know, because like if Nick's trying to talk to Charlie about like university, well, Charlie's obviously gonna be like, well, I want you to stay with me, so like Nick's like, I need a third opinion, like, to like tell me stuff. So I love that on the road trip with Tara and Elle, like he's able to bond with them and like confide in them, and they're able to give him like an honest opinion. They're like, well, Nick, you look really happy when we're here, or like, Nick, is that really what you want? Or like, they were able to give their kind of advice. So I love that the normalization / showing the importance of these types of like friendship support systems outside of like your romantic support system, I think is so important, because always the prize is always like your romantic love, and like you'll live happily ever after once you have that person. But like, yeah, no, life is full of ups and downs and changes and that kind of stuff, and like having a partner doesn't like make all of that easier, like, you know. So I think it's important that she shows that like friends and support systems are really important outside of romantic love. I love that she keeps like harping on that point.
You know, I love like kind of just adding on to that, like the whole, I think you mentioned the Nick trying to find people to confide in, especially about trying to have his first time with Charlie. It's just like, because it's a very unique relationship for him. It's a boy with a boy, and he doesn't know anybody else in that situation because it's a very specific situation he's in. And he's like trying to text, like, I think it was Sai he's trying to text, one of his rugby friends, and he's like, well, he's straight, he wouldn't understand. So it's like, okay. Right. And then like, I don't remember if it was like Tara or somebody's trying to text, and he's like, well, that's I mean, she's a lesbian, so it's a different experience for her too. And I don't even, that's me presuming that she knows anything in her relationship, because you know they don't share that kind of thing about their relationship, so it's not his business if they don't want it to be. So, you know, like, he's not even sure, like, who can I talk to this about? Like, I don't know who knows, I don't know who is comfortable, like, how do I approach this? Especially over text, it's like,
yeah,
how do I do this?
That's a really random text to get.
Yeah. And it's like, and they don't teach queer relationships in sex ed either. Like, that's a thing that, you know, it's already hard enough getting like actual proper sex ed, let alone for queer people, especially because, you know, that's another thing people will say, no, my child can't learn about this because, you know, the homophobia that's included in that. So it's tough all year round, all around. It's tough. So
yeah, it is a super awkward position to be in. I'm surprised that Nick didn't start Googling stuff the way he was like, am I gay? Like, he didn't get on a BuzzFeed quiz or anything. Because this is, like, that's the next step, right? When you really don't know what to do, then you go to the internet, and that's a cesspool of, like, mixed bag information. So, yeah, you're right. It's as a queer person, like, when you're the minority, like, in your friend group, it makes it even harder because you're like, my experience is not going to be your experience. So yeah, I was definitely in this situation. I was like, I cannot ask any of my friends this because they're all straight. They're not going to know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess I'm just going to figure this out on my own. And it's a shitty position to be in for sure. Like, I felt Nick in this scene. Even when you have friends, like, sometimes it's like you're still alone with those thoughts, and like there is no outlet for it. It's just like, cool.
Yeah. People can listen, absolutely, but it's still like, it's another thing for somebody to fully empathize and understand. And they can try their best, but sometimes it's still tough. So
yeah.
I think, actually, I'm trying to think about it, but I think at some point, not in the actual novel itself, but I think in the Q&A that just came out recently, Alice even like showed Nick has a Google history. I think, if I remember right, I think that was actually one of the questions was, what was Nick's Google history? And she like posted the list, and he's just like, and Nick's character comes up and he's like, okay, we're done with that. Moving on.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's cute.
That's freaking adorable.
It's such an in-character thing for him.
I feel like something in Nick's history would be like, how to surprise your boyfriend with the cutest date.
He would.
He would 100%. He would make the BuzzFeed quiz for that. Okay, so speaking of like support systems, let's talk about then there's the parent aspect of it. So the scene that I really love was, of course, Olivia Colman giving Nick the sex talk, like, unprompted. And she's just like, I support you. And it's basically, it was like the red, white, and royal blue scene. She's like, make sure you're doing all these things, and like, I'm here for you, and it's fine. It's totally normal. Like, I understand it's gonna be different for you. And he's just embarrassed AF. But like, it's good to have a supportive parent like that. It is weird to talk about it with your parent 100,000,000%, but like, I love how she's just like, I get what this is going to be like for you. I know it's going to happen. I'm not ignoring this, but like, no, just be safe, do all the things. Like, it was very sweet and cute, and I love it.
Olivia Colman does everything unprompted.
I know. Like,
at the right times. Olivia Colman is a treasure.
She is.
She even offers to buy him the condom. She's like, I can help you, buddy. And he's just like, Mom, I can buy my own things. It's fine. And she's like, okay, I'm just offering. Like, she's trying to be that safe space for him. It's amazing.
Yes.
So, Mom of the Year.
Then she apologizes for intruding.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just want to cry because everything Olivia Colman does. Again, we say Olivia Colman because we forget that her character's name is Sarah.
Her name's Sarah, yeah.
Olivia Colman.
But she's everything Mom of the Year always.
Olivia Colman's amazing, and I just love her. And seeing, like, in the show, especially, just like the emotions. Oh, I love her.
I'm
I
excited to
can't
see
wait
that
for this
scene.
scene in
Yeah.
the show.
I
cannot
really need this
wait for
scene.
this.
her and Kit Connor doing this scene are gonna be priceless.
Oh
for
my
sure.
god, it's gonna be so good. All
I
right.
can't wait. This needs
I
to
I
happen.
can't
If
wait.
it's not, they need to have. They definitely need another season just so it can happen.
Right.
Alice wants 4 seasons, so manifesting. I think they all do. I think they all want 4 seasons, so it's like, please. I like to think that they're just not telling us yet, but maybe I'm just trying to manifest that.
I would love that just so they can like really focus season 3 on the mental health stuff. Because
Yeah.
I feel like that's its own season.
Ugh.
It definitely is because, like, I think Volume 4 tackled that mostly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And I think, especially with that topic, it really needs its own time. It can't be mixed in with the sex.
You can't
sex
rush it.
ed
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. That's why I was like, how are they going to combine these two things? Like, I really hope that there is a 4th season so they can pace that mental health stuff really well for Charlie.
Yeah, I hope they don't feel like they need to rush it because
Yeah, it was.
they
just,
haven't rushed the other stuff, and it's just it's good to let it breathe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just such a big part of Charlie, you know, and it does like once that's kind of dealt with and he goes through the therapy, it does change him going forward. So I agree. I hope it's paced properly to like out of respect for Charlie, you know.
And then also, I know we'll talk about it later, but the band scene, like where he finally starts getting a little more confidence to do things, that can't be in the same season because we got to get past all of that.
Agreed.
First.
I feel like they're gonna have to like mix things up from the book a little bit in terms of like timeline, the way they kind of did in the prior seasons. But
I'm just thinking because there's not even like 6th book, the end of the series isn't even out yet. So like to wrap it up with season 3 would kind of just be like there's like I know Alice has it like probably all the concept is there, but it's like how do you wrap it up in a little bow with this season, like with everything going on? Like Charlie hasn't even said the 3 words yet in the show.
So,
no,
I know we have to get
not yet.
Yeah, we have to get to that and the mental health stuff. That has to be season 3.
Basically, we need 5 seasons at least.
I agree. one for each novel.
That'd be nice for us.
I mean, that'd be ideal. And then we get the epilogue, which we'll talk about at the end. Her Q&A that was into the future. I know. Okay, but let's finish Heartstopper Volume 5 first. Okay, so speaking of mental health, in this book, Charlie's already kind of not passed, but he's dealt with the acuity of his eating disorder stuff, and now we're kind of into like a body image, dealing with the ongoing mental health issues past like acute therapy and things like that. And so because we're transitioning into like them having sex for the first time, Charlie's fear that's manifesting that kind of like is making him hesitate comes with his body image issues, specifically being like, I guess like first shirtless in front of Nick, because Nick's a rugby player. So like Charlie's like, wow, first of all, that's intimidating. You're in crazy good shape. I'm like a little twig. And then he has like the mental block of like, oh, what if he thinks I'm disgusting? And it comes, I like the way Alice draws it in the graphic novel where they're kind of like having a heated kiss, and then like you start seeing like the darkness of Charlie's thoughts in these frames, and it just like escalates like as Nick's like tugging at his shirt. So I love the way she wrote it, and it just poor Charlie, like to have that on your mind when you're like having a happy moment is just, it's got to be the worst, you know.
It's definitely something like it's great because it shows like mental health just doesn't just get fixed. Like the fact that he's still working on it. He's still like, he even says like, I think later on in the book he's like, I know I'm still dealing with my eating disorder, you know, I'm still dealing with I'm still having to deal with therapy. It's like, I'm not just perfect. I'm not just better all of a sudden. Because that's not how mental illness works, ever. Some people deal with a mental illness their entire lives. Like, it doesn't just go away. You learn to manage it. You learn to kind of live with it and feel okay. But, you know, it doesn't just go away that easily. I think my favorite thing that I love that Alice, attention to detail that they have is with Charlie's scars. Like, he... like at the very beginning, like throughout the beginning of the book, like you see him covering his arm, like when he's like taking his shirt off to change, she's covering his arm and you never actually see it. And then like throughout the books, he slowly becomes more comfortable. At first it's an accident that Nick sees it on like their FaceTime call. And then when Nick, I guess it's just because Nick doesn't really react. He's kind of just like, oh, okay. Charlie over time becomes more comfortable and feels safer with Nick. And then at the very end, you see like the scars are fully revealed, and it's like nothing changes. Nick, you know, he just grabs him and he kisses him, and that's it. Like, it's just like, I almost cried reading that part. I was just like, he loves him so much. Charlie, you deserve this. You need to believe you deserve this, because you deserve the world, boy.
Yes.
He came so far. He's come so far. I'm so proud of my boy, Charlie.
I also just love the symbolism of that too, because yeah, they're physical scars, but it's also like showing like, you know, like there can be invisible scars, like the mental scars that Charlie's always going to carry from his like trauma, you know, from everything we've seen from Charlie, from like the bullying to like the eating disorder and all of that escalation. A lot of those are like invisible scars, internal, that Nick can't see. So I like the symbolism of like Nick sees all of Charlie, the good, the bad, and everything, and he still loves him no matter what. And like you said, the important thing is that like that shows Charlie that he's worth loving and he can like fully love himself, like the good, the bad, and everything in between. So I think that's a really good lesson, and it's depicted very subtly by Alice, but like, yeah, I love that for Charlie, because Charlie deserves everything and he feels like he doesn't, and that's part of like his mental block. So I love that Nick is able to kind of show him like, you're worth loving, like love yourself, like give yourself a break kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're enough kind of thing.
I think even like at the very end when they're actually finally being intimate, when they're having like their actual first time, there's even like for a while when Charlie's finally like taking his shirt off in front of, or has Nick take his shirt off, there's even like those little dots around him, but they're a little bit lighter. And then as soon as Nick grabs his face and kisses him, it goes away. Like it turns into this light in the background, and it's just like, Alice, the attention to details, man. And like you kind of see it throughout, like he's still feeling a little anxious, and that's, you know, that's normal, I think. Like that's to be expected, like to have those nerves, but it's still like you can tell he's slowly feeling safer. And I love that attention to details with her illustrations. Just it is so subtle, but it's like it tells you a lot of what's going on in their head. So good.
I love that. I love that you pointed that out. It's so true. Because like again, it reinforces like Charlie's always going to have these thoughts. It's more about overcoming them when he feels safe and comfortable, kind of thing. So it is important. I love it. Okay, something else that I love, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit. I love that they also insert Charlie having a conversation with his therapist. So like he has like kind of like the same therapist, I guess, from like volume 4 onward. So it helps normalize going to therapy, and puts this kind of like into perspective for people that like we've mentioned earlier, like just because like again you have a boyfriend and you like went through the acute stage of therapy, it doesn't mean you're cured forever. Like, you know, continuing to have these conversations and work through things as time goes on is also important. So I like the normalization of that as well.
I love that they had Charlie, well, Alice had Charlie actually go into the hospital, because that is definitely heavily stigmatized, especially in the media. You get it called the loony bin, like the padded room, mental institution, which I actually use because I like to cope with things with humor. That gets me in trouble sometimes. I got in trouble for it in the hospital. That's a whole nother story. As people listening, if this is not your first time, you know that I'm very open on this podcast, sometimes a little too much, but people need to know that it's okay if you need the extra help. And that's why I'm so glad that they had Charlie go into the hospital. And it wasn't like a very short time. Like he was there for like, I think 7 or 8 weeks, about that, because I don't think it was months. Anyway, but it's very accurate when Charlie was upset when he got out, because he said that like everyone was treading eggshells around him. And this is just completely accurate, because people feel so scared to like leave you alone for like a minute when you like first get out. And it's a lot on you as well, because then you're like not allowed to be alone. You feel like you're more broken than when you started, because now everybody knows that there's like dark thoughts in your head, and all you're trying to do is heal and move on. But luckily it gets better, but he has a great guy in his life to make remind him how amazing he is.
Yeah, I like the line that Charlie has when he's talking to Nick, where he's like, "I'm not fragile." I love that line so much because you're right. People like don't know how to handle that, or like how to. I'm not always like being like, people want to be supportive, but they don't know how. So like it comes off as like, they don't want to trigger that person. So then to the person, they're like, well, you're treating me different. You're treating me like I'm broken. But it's like, I don't know how to be supportive in this situation when it's internal. Like, I can't see how you're feeling necessarily. I can't see what you need. So like, it's hard. Unless you like really know the person extremely well, which is what makes Nick really effective, because he was always since the beginning very super observant about Charlie and constantly learning things about him. So Nick is very good at being in this situation. The other person in Charlie's life who's actually really good at this is, I mean, not as good as Nick, but good, is Tori. Tori's the other one who like can read Charlie very well. But she's like doesn't always take action when she should. She's a little avoidant as well, and like beats herself up about that later in other volumes. But it's hard. It can be really hard to do, and so you can see why like Charlie's parents are like not great, especially his mom, who's like not observant at all when it comes to Charlie because she has her own trauma. But like, it's hard. It's hard for everybody, and like you said, Kaitlynn, in a lot of up until recently, really, like this has been a stigmatized thing. People don't talk about this. They just write you off as crazy or like whatever. I don't mean to use derogatory language, but just like, and so nobody really knows how to be a support system because we're not taught that this is even okay, so
I
yeah,
do.
I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know. I just wanted to mention for like listeners, if anybody is being a support system for someone, the best thing you can do is just ask that person what they need, and whatever their response is, listen to that. Don't read into it, be like, oh, they're saying this, but they mean that. If they say they don't need anything or they want space, leave them alone because that's what they want. And if for some reason it's not, and like they are just saying it, they will learn to say, okay, I need this from you.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to do it, is just ask the person. Don't walk on eggshells. Don't pretend like you know what they need.
The exception to that is if you're Mon and Cap the series and you're dating Sam. She wants the opposite.
Go watch those discussions.
That's great. Speaking of people who need therapy, that everyone on that show. Okay.
Usually if the people went for therapy
really
already and was in the hospital, they will know to communicate more what they need.
For sure. All right. Okay. There's another conversation today, again, just to harp on this again. There's a conversation that Nick and Charlie have. Where I forget, where Charlie's kind of like in his head with like the mental health stuff, and basically like Nick is there and like supporting him, but Alice again is like kind of harping on the fact that like Nick can't magically solve Charlie's problems, because so often in media, like if a character is struggling with something internal, like the partner will show up and just magically everything is fine. Again, that's not real life. That's like I think Disney has done more damage than helpful when it comes to this, because we're always like, you're getting married, your problems are magically solved. The end. And it's like, no, life keeps going after that point.
Oh,
it's not
marriage, that'll just create way more problems.
Or like you kiss the person you love, you're dating, the end, everything's happy. And it's like, no, like problems still happen. And so like, while Nick is there to support Charlie through this, like you're saying, Kaitlynn, Nick being there doesn't magically solve Charlie's problem. It doesn't magically make all the mental health stuff go away. And so sometimes like Charlie does have to deal with this stuff like internally, and Nick can just hold his hand while it's happening, which is basically what this frame is showing. And like sometimes that's okay and that's enough. And it sucks being in Nick's position where you're like watching your partner struggle and you don't want them to, but like sometimes that's part of that process, and it's uncomfortable, and it takes time, and it's not like a happy moment, but it's like it's part of life, and it's kind of like part of being there for like the good, the bad, and everything in between kind of thing. So I like that she shows that even with them, with like young adults, with children, because like everybody goes through these things, and again, it like helps normalize it by having this conversation with the two of them. So I like that she puts things like that in there.
Charlie just wants to be a teenager. Like he
Yeah.
wants to be able to live his life as a teenager, and he's already gotten thrown a curveball with his mental health. So it's like he just wants to be able to live his life.
Yeah, and I like that she has Charlie struggle in there too, because it goes to show that like not everybody's teenage experience is going to be the same, and that's okay too, you know.
You're not alone, no matter how much you think you are.
Exactly. All right, speaking of not alone, then we get to Nick's uni decision. All right, because he has to kind of figure this out on his own, and then like he kind of has friends that help him with this. I like the beginning. I like the fact that this is in here, period, because it depicts a huge thing that kids go through when you're transitioning out of high school / into like university, college, wherever you live, kind of thing, or just into the workforce, where like at the cusp of that graduation from like primary school, basically all of the primary schools, you have to figure out your entire life before you're legally even an adult, which is a lot. Okay, that in itself is just a lot.
I feel like we should all have to go into places undecided for the first year and then make a choice. It's a lot.
Yeah, agreed. It's a lot. And so what I love about Nick's, so any journey that's going through that is really important, because it's like impossible to figure that out, and sometimes you can't, and like so you end up like taking non-traditional paths, or like stumbling through college, or like whatever. What I like about Nick's journey that I thought was interesting and unique to Nick is that Nick mentions that his journey before that, where he had to figure out he was bisexual, actually helped him figure out more about himself than like anything else he's been through up until that point. And he admits in that like this is all a process, and he still doesn't have all the answers. Which, yes, you're a teenager, of course not. And I think that's important for young adults, or adults really of any age, to hear. Like, it's okay not to know everything about yourself. Like even like knowing yourself is a process that takes many years, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you're like in a situation and you're like, wow, okay, that's how I react to this, or wow, okay, I don't like this, or wow, I do like this. Like, it's all part of the journey of life. And so I think it's important in the context of like these young kids getting ready to like move on to the next phase in life, to like hear that like it's okay not to know these things about yourself yet. Like, you just do the best you can, you know. So, and then Nick also has the added pressure of like leaving Charlie, because like they are codependent, and Charlie has that whole the mental health stuff that he's still dealing through. And so Nick has this element of like, I don't want to be away from Charlie when I make so I want to stay close to him, so that makes the decision for me. And also he has that element, I think, of a little bit of guilt, of being like, well, if I leave Charlie, what if that makes him upset and something bad happens to him, and then it's my fault, and then I can't be there. And so it's hard to be Nick. It's hard to be like a young adult figuring that out, and then to also be tethered to a partner that brings a lot of like baggage. Not Charlie's fault, but I'm just saying that like Nick also has to consider, basically, makes his decision even harder, and totally understandable that his first instinct as Nick, who's like the overprotective boyfriend, to be like, I'm staying with you. Like, that makes the decision for me.
There's something I also want to point out, and I feel like this whole episode is just going to be me being like, oh, Alice just fixed all the issues with other media. But something that really annoys me is that when you have like this 1 year age gap between people, so the older person in the couple is going to go away to university, and they're like, oh, we have to break up because I'm going to a whole different school. Like, just showing that they could still be together. I mean, obviously we don't see it yet because he didn't leave, but just knowing that they weren't like, oh, we have to break up. That's not what this is about. This was like, do I want to be away from you? And like, obviously it's hard, but they didn't immediately go to that. It was more, I want to be with you. Which brings us to Nick visiting Leeds.
Oh my god, this was so fucking cute. The best part, so like, okay, I like the way she draws the colleges, so you could get Nick's perspective. So when he's at like I forget what it's called, the university closer to
Kent.
Charlie,
Kent.
it's like,
Yeah,
thank you. it's just like dreary and like a cookie cutter building, and he's like,
It's
I don't know
alright.
about this. And he's like, I don't know. And then when he gets to leads, it's very like charming looking and like inviting. And I think what seals the deal is when he meets the rugby team and there's like queer rugby players. And Nick, I think, sees himself. He's like, that could be me. People like me are already here. Like, and this is why representation is so important, because Nick sees himself on that team because people like him are already there. And I think that's when he's like, I love this place.
Literally has that vision of
Is that
himself.
your Charlie
Did I
the
do it?
Unicorn voice?
Did I do it?
Wait, hold on. Go like this. No, both.
Both?
Yeah. Oh, is it not gonna do it?
I don't know when it does that one. It likes this one more so. I don't know. My webcam is weird. Thanks, Apple. I refuse to learn the actual signs. They just happen randomly.
I know them, so that's why I was trying to get you to do something, but it wouldn't work. So, anyway. This whole scene was just so cute.
It was.
Nick is so used to his group of queers, but this meeting was out in the real world. And it probably made him feel a sense of safety, and he could literally see himself there, because it wasn't his like group, because I feel like he brought like all the queers in their school is like in one group together.
Literally.
But
they are the rugby team.
Out in the other world that's not in their little bubble. And especially to be leaving your safety net that he's known, and not to mention Olivia Colman.
I know.
Like,
that's gonna be hard. That's gonna be the hardest part.
Like, for the first time, this encounter had to have made him feel like this feels right. And then we also get the gay leaves.
We do. Oh my god, that means love.
This is Alayne's first episode with us, as you know.
The gay leaves,
I don't know
love
if you're familiar with the gay leaves.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Leaves are a universal language.
They are a love language
in
now.
media. It
Hi.
means queer stuff.
Hi is a love language now. Saying hi, it's a love language now.
Yeah, it is.
That's true.
Yeah. But the fact that Nick literally like has that vision of himself on that team, like right after that, it's like that just tells you everything you need to know. Because it's like that was me finding my university. I was like, yeah, I could see myself here. Yep, there you go.
Something just clicks when you visit a university and you're like, this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
And it's just, it could be from the weirdest reasons. I turned down a full ride somewhere else to pay way more money to go to the university I went to. But you know when you know. And Nick knows. He doesn't want to admit it yet, but he knows.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah.
You know who else knows? Elle. I like that we get Elle, and we get the conversation of basically like Elle. So we're post kind of like Elle making her decision. Oh, actually, no. She's trying to figure out where she's going to university, university for her. And basically, we get the conversation with like Nick and Tara and all of them, and Elle is basically like, listen, Nick, I'm with Tao. We've decided to do long distance. By we, I mean I, because I want to go to the school that I want to go to, because this is my future. Like, love him and all that, but this, going to university and higher education is about me. It's not about him. So I like that we get more of like Elle standing up for herself in this regard and like what she wants for her future. There's glimpses of it in the show, and we've talked about that in the past, but like it's very outright and explicit in this volume in particular. And so I like when she gives this pep talk to Nick, because by using herself, she's kind of like encouraging Nick to be like, Nick, really think about yourself in this scenario, because I feel like up till now you've been thinking mostly about Charlie and like being there for Charlie and like clinging to your codependence with Charlie, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but like think about just you for a second in order to fully make this decision. I think that's important too, because if you make decisions based on another person and take yourself out of the equation and don't really think about it, like if it doesn't really match what you want at the end of the day, you're going to end up resenting that person. Because like, quote, they ruined your life because I did this for you and now I'm unhappy. And so like it ultimately could end badly if Nick just thinks about Charlie in this scenario and doesn't really think about what he wants and what he feels is best for him. So I like that we have Elle being the one that like really hits that home by like comparing it to her situation with Tao.
Yeah, it's very in character for Elle too, having gone through her transition and everything, like having to stand up for herself through all of that. Like it's very in character saying, nope, I'm putting myself first because, yeah, I gotta think about myself. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can almost say, like, when Nick was saying, oh, my journey being of bisexuality and coming to terms with that helped me figure out myself. You could say the same about Elle, like you're saying, like her transition really taught her about herself and what she wants and needs. And so what I'm hearing is that queer people are pretty resilient for having gone through these, like, who am I things pretty young. And, like, that's what Alice is trying to say.
Some of us know ourselves better than some straight people do.
We're forced to reflect in different ways, you know?
Yeah, and we kind of have to, in, like, our society with discrimination and homophobia still and everything, like, we have to be able to have that foundation to stand up for ourselves and really, like, confidently say, no, this is me, regardless of what you say, so we're pretty tough.
And overanalyze everything.
Exactly. Hence this podcast.
Yep.
No, but very well said. I absolutely love that.
You know,
go.
Are we jumping ahead now?
Oh no, I was gonna go to head boy unless you wanted to.
Yeah. No, that's what. Go ahead.
All right, so something I didn't see coming but should have because I read the Nick and Charlie novella was the head boy thing. So, but it's by the time you get to the Nick and Charlie novella, Charlie is the head boy. Spoiler, so he wins. But I like that this is
Theora.
I like that this is the origin story of how he gets there, and it's really fucking cute. So Mr. Farouk is the one of all people who recommends Charlie as the head boy. And the reason is, like, it's basically to heal his inner child. And I thought this was so cute because he's like, you know, not only would you be great at this because you're you, Charlie, like, for me personally, like, if I was, you know, in a younger than you and I had a head boy who was, like, out and queer and, like, super resilient and, like, and, like, you know, survived bullying and is fighting back against it, like, that would have meant everything to me and made me a stronger person, basically. So, like, I love the queer support with queers. And, like, again, that representation of just having a head boy who's like you and you can see yourself in, like, and has that perspective can ultimately make change to make it a better environment. I love that Mr. Farouk was, like, the one who encouraged Charlie to do this and recommended it. It was very cute.
I hope we get this scene because
Me too.
I think this is gonna be really cute. And I feel like Ben, I think is his name, and I think he should be just, like, in the corner in the background, being like.
Ben's actually not going to be in season 3. Like, spoiler for everybody if they haven't been
following. Oh wait, not Ben.
No, you mean the other teacher, the art teacher.
You mean Mr. Ajayi. Nathan.
Yes.
No, sorry, that's
Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan Ajayi.
Nathan. Oh my god, I'm so, like, yeah, that was.
I hope Ben's not there.
No. Yeah, I knew Ben's not going to, but I don't know why I thought that was his name. I'm sorry.
Nathan.
I don't do well with
Mr. Ajayi, the art teacher.
That's why we're a team. Okay. Yeah,
I'll say I am the biggest Heartstopper nerd. Like, all of my friends think I'm very obnoxious about. I mean, they won't say it, but I know it's true. But anything about who's this character, I probably know because that was my entire personality for 6 months. So
well, I'm glad you're here because we need that, and I hope you do Heartstopper season 3 with us.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to see a crying mess, because that's gonna be me in season 3.
So what I'm hearing is we need to do reaction videos with you.
That's what I'm hearing. Let us know in the comments if that's what you want us to do.
Do you want us to
We're
just
probably
cry?
Gonna do it anyway, but, like, let us know anyway.
I'm gonna be in my feelings. Yeah. Yeah, like with Mr. Farouk especially, because I think he said he didn't realize he was gay till he was in his 20s, and so, like,
yeah.
And I wonder if part of that was because he didn't have the rep when he was in high school, so that even just, like, adds on to he really sees himself in Charlie, and it's so sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I wonder if he's like, wow, that could have been me if I had the courage to come out. Maybe that's what he was afraid of and why he, like, dismissed things for so long. Yeah, I know. Farouk is an interesting character and, like, so tragic. So I like that it was him and not Nathan, because, like, you figured it would have been Nathan because Nathan has always been encouraging Charlie. Yeah. He's always been Charlie's safe space. So I love that it doesn't come from him and it actually comes from Mr. Farouk for this reason. It makes it really special.
I love Nathan and Farouk.
They're so cute.
Yes.
I don't know Farouk's first name. Is Farouk his first
Yusuf.
name? The last
Yusuf's his first name.
Yusuf. But I love their relationship in general. I can't wait to see more of them.
I was so happy they included them in season 2. I was like, I knew they would partially, but I was so happy when they did their whole Paris story. I was so happy.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Something else that
Isn't cute.
it's not cute, but very important.
Yeah,
I
I didn't know
think.
how to transition to this.
Yeah, this is the best I could do. Was just getting to know more about Charlie's mom and why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I always suspected there was trauma there with the mom. And you know, we've talked about this before. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's traumatized and that's why she's doing these things. So I'm glad they gave us context to her behavior towards Charlie. To me, I thought that was so important because I feel like in YA in this kind of space, it's easy to write off the parents and be like they're evil or
Yeah.
they don't care, or like because we are seeing the story from the child's point of view. And so we're limited in what we know because children do not know their parents. Like you can't know the 30, 40 plus year of history about your parents. Your parent, you know what your parents show you. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your parent is not showing you their trauma, you're not going to understand them. So I love that. This isn't an excuse for Charlie's mom's behavior, but to me, it helps explain why she does the thing that she does and why it's so hard for her to talk to Charlie and really like relate to him. Because like her mother was essentially she lives in raised in an abusive household where she couldn't have conversations with her mother. She couldn't like say how she felt. Like she would get like physically abused or like yelled at and stuff. And so it's hard for her to like talk to Charlie. She's raised in a household that's very much like, I'm the parent, you respect me, what I say goes. You shouldn't be arguing back to me. So then when Charlie tries to like express his opinions, I think she doesn't know what to do with that and shuts down or like gets angry, you know, because she was never given that as a kid.
I agree that it's not an excuse, but I do love that it gives us a reason and humanizes her because I am very face value with the character, so I did not like her, and I do like that we get to know more about her. But I also love how supportive Charlie's dad is with her.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly what she is feeling like when it happens. So that must mean like they have a bunch of conversations about this. He knows exactly how this trauma affects her. And then when Charlie, I believe he says that he hates her and like storms out, um, like Charlie's dad turns to his mom and he says,
Should we talk
should we
about
talk
what just
about what
happened?
just happened? And like, and this happens multiple times that he just knows that it affects her, and he's like, all right, let's go talk about it. I'm here for you. And I just think that's really cute.
Let's say I don't know if you guys haven't seen it, but there is a story that Alice wrote a long time ago. It's like kind of a short story of how Charlie's parents met, and it kind of goes more into depth. I think it's on like her Tumblr or it's Tapas or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I stumbled across it like months ago, and it's actually like the story of how they met and how it kind of goes a little more into depth. Not so much about their backstories, but she kind of talks about her family a little bit and how she doesn't particularly like seeing her family, and like she's on vacation. I think it's to Spain. She meets like his family, and it's like it's a whole thing, and it's such a cute little story, and it really goes more in depth about their backstory and them falling in love. So
Oh my god, I have to go find that and
Would
read that. That's
recommend.
really, really sweet.
It's really cute. Would recommend.
Oh my god. Yeah, because you notice that a lot of like, I think in like this winter and stuff, they're the families are coming to visit, and there's definitely like a bias from the kids towards like the dad's family versus like the mom's family. Like you can tell there's a lot of tension there, and they're not really close. So that helps contextualize that as well.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Something I do want to note about this, like the trauma, is that the irony of it all is that while Charlie resents his mom because she's not good at handling his like wants and needs when it comes to like him struggling, the irony is that Charlie and his mom handle trauma in similar ways. They actually have more in common than they do differences because they both shut down. Like they both do the same thing. They hide with their feelings, they internalize things, and then they lash out when it's too much. Like they both react the same way to like trauma and like bottling up their feelings. So I wonder if that's also partially why they have such a strained relationship. Like, you know, when you're with somebody who's too similar to you, like you can't, it's almost like you can't relate. You need somebody who's like on the opposite spectrum, which is why like Nick and Charlie work so well, and like Charlie's mom and dad work so well, because the dad is more like Nick. And so like they're able to like comfort that person versus like, it's almost like with Charlie and his mom, like they react the same way. So they're like lashing at each other, except, and one person is not comforting the other. So I think that also partially strains them because they're very similar and both like traumatized people who are like dealing with that trauma, you know?
Yes, I mean, it's fair as well.
Okay, so now we can transition out of the trauma and talk about the queerness of it all. So,
we talked about a lot of the queerness, but there's something we really need to talk about.
Yes, which is Alice revisited Tori. And so we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but when she wrote Solitaire, she wrote it when she was like a teenager. And it was before Alice realized she was asexual. So like when she re-released the book recently-ish, she did like a Q&A in the back of the book. It was basically like they asked her, whoever was interviewing asked her about Tori, and she's like, well, when I was writing this, I didn't know anything about myself, but now that I'm looking back at Tori, I'm like, oh, she's very clearly asexually coded, because like I was like writing her from my perspective a little bit, and that says a lot about me. And like, so I love that she like canonized it in this book, and so she officially like came out as asexual, and it was just the best, and I'm so happy she did it, and happy for Tori. I love her so much. It's so cute. It's so cute. And she does it to Charlie. Like, I like when they're on the Ferris wheel, and she's like, I think she said something like, I'm in a queer relationship too, or whatever. He's like,
Neither
no one
of
in
us
our
are
house
straight.
is straight,
Yeah.
Charlie. What are you
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Pedro Pascal, have you seen it? Yeah, Michael goes off about Pedro Pascal.
Oh my god,
Like-
with Michael, because Michael's pansexual.
Yeah.
And so, oh my god, she's like, I'm surprised you didn't figure that out. And they cut to the montage of Michael being like, yeah, the
even
Pascal.
the gay guy was like, the gaydar is just not there, even for Charlie.
Yeah, I love it. She's like, I'm in a queer relationship. I'm surprised you haven't realized that.
You of all
That's
people.
what happened.
He's just like, oh, oops.
I love
So
Michael
funny.
Holden. Tori in
But
Solitaire.
I love that
Yes.
Charlie admits, and he says, I don't actually know much about asexuality.
Yeah.
And Tori just looks so like, not, I guess dejected would be the word, but she says, yeah, you and most of the world, which, yes, she's completely right, and which is why we need this to learn more, because I definitely need to learn a lot more. And we do have at least another book coming up that we're going to read that will help us understand a little more.
Yeah, and I do love that, like, the crux of what she's upset about is because, like, okay, so her and Michael have a very intense friendship in Solitaire, and then I guess it kind of progresses into, this is more than a friendship, but Tori's basically like, well, you know, I don't want to do anything physical. I guess they have, and she's like, I'm not into it. We tried. It's not for me. I confirmed it. And I'm afraid that, like, over time, like, he says that he's fine with that now, but like eventually he's gonna be like, no, I want to do this, and like will break up with me. But Charlie's like, but you're not even like giving him a chance, like, you know, you're just like shutting this down before it can go any further. So I like that they're having this conversation of like what it's like to be in like it's possible to be romantic with somebody without like having sex with them, and that's okay. And like, so that's what Tori wants, but she's got that very real fear of like, yeah, that's where we're at now, but what about later? Like, will that always be okay? Because like that's who I am. What if we're not compatible going forward in that way? And that's, I can't even imagine what that's like to have to like really consider like this one thing you don't want could be the thing that like robs you of the person you're in love with, basically. Like, that's,
Yeah.
what a fear, you know?
Yeah.
And then she says, I know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to say that he's fine with it, and then in 20 years, it'll be the reason.
Right.
Yeah. And Charlie even being like, trying to work towards sex with Nick, it's like, well, he even said he wasn't ready, and I said, well, okay, if you don't ever want to have sex, then that's fine. And he's like, because I love him. And yeah, that's not the case for everybody, but that's how I feel about Nick. And she's like, huh. So, kind of in perspective, even people who are active and wanting to have sex, like, for them, not everybody it's a priority. Not everybody it's a defining factor. Even for people who are sex positive, it's not a defining factor of a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a really, really good point. It almost reminds you, like, for people who can't relate to what that means, it's like the do you want kids or not thing when you're like 16. Everybody's like, no, I don't want kids. And then you turn 25 and then one partner's like, well, I want kids now. And the other one's like, well, I told you from the beginning I don't want kids. And then now they break up, which was the plot of Supergirl.
Oops.
Although they never had the conversation until they were engaged, which was stupid. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, that would definitely be a conversation before you get engaged.
You would think.
Yeah.
At least before you start planning the wedding.
Yeah,
Just saying.
That's kind of a defining factor in your future together, so...
Yeah.
Oof.
But, like, also, like, it's okay to change your mind. Like, I had this happen in, like, real life, too. Like, one of my wife's friends basically, like, was married and then very recently was like, oh, I want kids. And, like, the husband's like, I don't. I've never wanted kids. We've talked about this before. And they ended up getting divorced. Because she's like, I want kids. Like, I didn't realize that about myself till now. And it's okay to change. Like, that's nobody's fault. That is part of life. Like, things change as stuff go on. And what's important is, like, being your own advocate and deciding what you really want. And, like, if it's worth it, it's worth it. Like, it's your life, you know? So it's also okay to change your mind. So, like, Tori's fear is very real and that could very well happen. But is it worth, like, having the experience with Michael while you can, or just never having it and always wondering what if and potentially ruining that friendship?
People are constantly growing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're never going to be the same that, like, especially, like, the people who meet as teens and, like, think they're going to be together forever. You're going to continue to grow. And that's why I feel like divorce really shouldn't be so stigmatized because, you know, it's okay if you're unhappy. You don't stay in an unhappy relationship. Maybe we should just stop getting married in general.
You would think.
People getting married in like their 30s now and they last their whole lives. People getting married older needs to be more normalized. I'm glad it's getting more normalized, but like when you hit your 20s, you still get the grandparents asking, when are you getting married? Well, I need a partner first before I even think about marriage. Hold on, slow down.
Okay. I'm sorry. Everything is expected to happen when you're in your 20s. You're supposed to, like, have your life figured out. Okay, so for, like, the normal heteronormative, I believe that's the word.
Heteronormative, yeah.
You're supposed to get married, have kids, own a house, have a stable job that you're going to stay at forever, and just have everything figured out and be happy.
Yeah.
That's what you're expected in your 20s.
I know.
And that's not realistic.
Not anymore. You don't live in that world.
Literally, my best friend, she's been with her now husband. They started dating in sophomore year of high school. And, like, from the moment that they were, I don't know, probably, like, 20, 21, they moved in together because she was finishing college. And everybody was saying, well, you're not married, so should you even be living together? And then other people were saying, well, when are you guys getting married? You guys have been together for 6 years. It's like, she's still finishing college. First of all, she's still, like, pursuing her life, and also 21 years old. Like, why does that have to be an age? Like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like, I'm
not everyone wants to get married either.
Yeah, they got married when they were ready, so, and it was the best thing. They're so happy they did it, but they waited to do it when they were ready, so it shouldn't be.
It's just like sex.
Do it when you're ready, not when anybody else tells you. Exactly.
I think this is a great time to talk about
speaking of things we're ready for. Okay, so I think that concludes all the scenes from volume 5 that we've talked about. So let's wrap this up by discussing our speculations / wish list / things we want from season 3 of Heartstopper and volume 6, which will be allegedly maybe the final volume of the Heartstopper universe.
Allegedly.
We'll see. 5 was supposed to be the last one. We'll see what's in Alice's brain. I'll start first. I hope in either of them we get more of Michael and Tori, because I just love them, and they're gonna have to they've already cast Michael for the show, so they're gonna have to kind of explain who he is, because we haven't seen him up till now, and like Solitaire has kind of already happened. Actually, no, Solitaire will happen, like, I think between yeah, so like they're gonna meet and all that stuff, so like I'm hoping that gets explained just a little bit. I know Tori's not the focus, but
we need more Tori.
Yeah,
because we did get more last season.
Yeah,
I got more last season of her protecting Charlie and, like, you know, kicking the phone out of David's hand.
I'm so happy. So happy that happens.
But yes, we definitely need to get to know Tori more this season.
I agree. And I just want a little explanation of Michael rather than just a cameo. Just a little bit for people who haven't read Solitaire.
What if they announce the Solitaire spinoff?
I would die. I would die.
And then speaking of new cast members, they brought the pug in!
They brought Henry!
Oh, yeah. Henry! He got cast! I'm so excited for that too. I kept saying, like, when are we getting Henry?
He's a tiny pug.
Oh my gosh.
Very excited.
Okay, something else I really want the concert scene with Charlie that was in Volume 5 in Season 3, because not only is it cute, adorable, and queer as fuck, but it will be 10 times queerer in the show, because Imogen and, like, Sahara will be in the band, and Imogen will be there, and those two have to get together this season.
If they don't, I will riot. And you know in the scene that Imogen will be joining the group to watch the band, because obviously. And Nick will say the line, "That's my boyfriend," and Imogen will just take a step up to be in the frame next to Nick and say, "That's my girlfriend."
Oh my god, ultimate bonding with those two. Yes, I need that so badly.
Oh, it'd be so cute.
Yeah. I also hope that we get the head boy, like, campaign, if not in Season 3, but like maybe in Season 4, if they do a Season 4 / Volume 6. I want to see that head boy campaign, because I'm really curious how Charlie's going to handle that, because it involves a lot of, like, being in the spotlight when you're campaigning. And I'm just wondering at this stage in his, like, mental health recovery journey, how he handles that. I'm just curious, because, like, I think that Charlie has grown quite a bit since he was able to be on stage and the concert and stuff. So I would love to see that full circle of just, like, Charlie getting more comfortable with, like, being in crowds and, like, having the spotlight on him versus, like, shrinking away, which is what he normally does. So I would love to see how that plays out.
For sure, yeah.
I think it would be very interesting to see the group split when they did the university visits, because it was very interesting the way they split it, and having Nick, Tara, and Elle together and talking, and then having Darcy, Tao, Charlie, and all the rest of the people back. It would separate it and change dynamics a little bit, and I would really like to see that.
I'm also curious what the conversation with Darcy and Tara is when it comes to university, because we don't get it, and Tara's like, Darcy's fine. But I'm just curious, like, what their conversation even is. I just want to see it play out.
What makes Darcy decide to take a gap year? I'm curious about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what
get away from her mom. I mean, either way, she could get away from her parents, but maybe she's been so stifled in her life that she really does want to just figure stuff out, maybe explore, probably go visit Tara a lot.
Yeah. She's gonna sleep in her dorm room. Let's be 100.
Yeah, she's gonna live there, basically.
Yeah, she's literally gonna freeload. But also, I want that conversation again, just for, like, the representation part of just, like, showing young people, like, it's okay. Like, again, it's insane that at 17 you have to have your life figured out. Like, it's okay to take a year and be like, let me figure out more about myself before, like, committing all this time and energy and money, if you're in America, to going to university. Like, is university even right for Darcy? Like, who even knows? Like, I feel like it's not, based on what we've seen of Darcy. She'd thrive doing something else as a career or a trade school or something. But, like, I like that that's her decision. So I just hope we get the conversation to, like, kind of normalize that also. I think that's important.
I wish America would normalize. I'm not sure how common it is in the UK, but I know it's like it is a thing that happens, like gap years.
Yeah.
Right after high school, or right after secondary school, like it's normal, like to take a year to figure yourself out, maybe travel, go see the world, just live your life as a young adult. That's not a thing here in America, not really. Like,
no, not at all. I didn't even know what a gap year was until I was like watching British television and
right.
talking about. Then I heard a gap year, and I'm like, what the fuck is a gap year? And then I was like, oh, that's actually brilliant. Like,
why is it not a thing here?
That's the time to do it.
Yeah, when you're young and spry.
When you're young, you don't have responsibilities yet. Go figure your shit out.
And your knees aren't cracking.
Yeah.
I think I did know what a gap year was, but it was always in media saying that it was like awful, and like it was storylines where they had no potential, basically. So basically, if you don't have any potential, you take a gap year. That's what our media portrayed. And my mom told me that I'm worried if you would take a gap year, because I don't think you'd want to go back to school if you didn't continue right into it. So let's normalize that.
Yeah, especially like college. College isn't necessarily mandatory for everybody. Like, you can still be successful without a degree. Like, the idea that you have to have a degree is, it's slowly starting to get more and more common that it's not necessary, but there's still such a stigma to people who didn't go to college. So, college is expensive.
And, but at least those people aren't in debt.
Yeah, right. College is expensive. College is 4, can be 6 years of your life. For some people, it's 10, depending on what, like, getting your master's, your doctorate. Like, that's a lot. So, and that's a lot of debt you're in.
Commitment.
Yeah, Theora, how many years of school have you done? Theora's a doctor, in case you didn't know. I have a doctorate,
yeah. So the doctor is 4 years. The undergrad is 4 years. So that's 8 years on top of, 12 years of schooling plus 2 years of residency. So like normal school, 10 plus 10 years. But I have my, it worked out for me. I have my dream job. So like it worked out. I paid off my loans, like all that stuff. Like I got a career where I could do that. But we're in this situation for reasons I don't want to get into on this podcast, like, but, normalize the fact that it's okay to figure your shit out and not to, again, to harp back to the sex talk, like, it's okay to do things at your own pace and do what you want.
Yeah.
Do what's right for you. It's kind of like the bottom line. Yeah. Speaking of the sex talk, the scene with Olivia Colman and Nick having the sex talk is going to be amazing, and I need it right now. It's going to be so good. Please. I hope the dogs are there. I hope that Nick's like, I hope Nick is holding Henry. He's like, Mom, like, and holding his ears
because he's just a puppy.
I want that scene because like those two are gonna nail that scene, and I want it so badly.
And then like Nick puts the dog down, and then Nick and David are just sitting there listening patiently.
Oh no!
But I just love that the dogs' names are David and Henry.
It's Nellie. Nellie is the
Nellie.
Yeah.
David
Border
is the brother,
collie,
but they both have.
David's from Red, White, and Royal Blue. That's why you're thinking.
David is his douchebag brother, is who that is.
Yeah, because we always made that comparison that there was a David, in this, and then there's something in Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Yeah, the beagle. Henry's beagle is named
God,
David.
I can't think of anything.
Yeah. So there's a dog named David.
It's David Bowie.
Yeah.
Bowie.
So like the Henry and then the David thing. Okay, I got it. I'm sorry.
I never made that connection. Oh my God.
I promise I prepped for this thing. I had great notes. It's just when I try to stray from my notes, it doesn't go well.
It's all right. That's what's entertaining about it. Nellie and Henry.
Oh my God, Nellie! How do I forget about Nellie?
I don't know.
Nellie is literally my favorite character.
Nellie Nelson. It's like my favorite play on words. Nellie Nelson.
Nellie Nelson.
Yeah.
We didn't get enough Nellie in season 2.
No, we did not.
There really wasn't a lot of Nellie.
No.
More dogs in season 3.
My one boost of serotonin was in episode 2 where Charlie's just like scratching, like it's just like an interlude between scenes.
That was so cute. He's like, "You're so cute. You're so cute."
I would have loved to have known like Joe's experience filming that scene. He's literally just like scratching Echo for like however long it took to film that little scene. He's probably just having his best time. Like, I get paid to do this. This is my job. I love this.
And for people listening, in case you didn't know, Echo plays Nellie.
Yeah, that's the dog who plays him.
I tried to get Echo on the podcast. They did not respond, unfortunately. But I can try again.
Go for Henry.
Let's go, Henry.
All right. I'll try Henry this time. But I want a scene where Charlie and his mom really talk.
Yes.
Where they talk about having to lean on someone for support, and his mom realizes that Nick is the same support that her husband is for her, because she needs that for herself. So seeing that Nick is this person, I think would be able to accept their relationship more. And I hope that this will also give them like a common ground in general, because those two need to talk and not like be I feel like his mom needs to let her guard down more when talking to him, and not feel like she needs to have so much space between them. She needs to talk to Olivia Colman first and then have the conversation.
We do need a conversation there, yeah.
Charlie's mom needs therapy, and I think I want Charlie to have a conversation with his mom about, Mom, maybe you should go see a therapist, because I feel like she's Charlie if Charlie had never sought therapy, where she clearly hasn't. She just shuts down like she did when she was a kid, like, and has never like worked through this. So like her defensive mechanisms are all very much in place and have been for decades probably. And her dad is probably somebody who like recognizes it and knows how to like calm her down. But I want Charlie to be like, Mom, maybe you should see a therapist, because I feel like it would help her. And like it would normalize it for adults to be like, hey, it's never too late to like work through your shit. Also a good life lesson.
I hope she's just not defensive and like it leads to a fight.
I think that if they get to a better place and a better understanding, and after they have a conversation, Charlie can maybe talk, because like she's clearly open to it because she let her son do it. So like I would like for Charlie to be like, hey, Mom, have you ever thought about this for yourself? There
is a thing where you're like, okay, it's okay for my child to get help, but for me, it's a no-no.
Right, exactly. I would like to see that conversation, even if it ends badly. I just want to see the conversation happen.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think the one I'm most anticipating is, I think it's at the end of, well, no, I think it's at the end of like the first half of Volume 4, where they're in, I think it's in Menorca, is that what it's called? They're on vacation, the Nelson family.
Oh, yeah,
and Nick's down at the beach, and he consults his mom, he consults Sarah, because she comes down, she's like, you've been gone forever, what's going on? And he just starts crying, he's like, I don't know how to handle this, I love Charlie so much, and I want to help him. I am not ready for Kit Connor and Olivia Colman to make me cry my eyes out in that scene.
I know.
Olivia Colman's just gonna make us all cry the entire time that she's on the screen.
Her and Kit Connor they have that chemistry as like a mom and son. Like they just yeah. I mean, the coming out scene of season 1 made me cry. So just because.
I love the outtake where she was just like, "I'm sorry, he just made me cry."
What was I gonna say? Was I supposed to say something else? She is precious. Yeah. I'm really curious to see how, like, even just the books outside of, because I think Alice hinted that, at least this winter, the novella that takes place during the winter, like the summer, the Christmas after Charlie goes to the hospital, that's supposed to get incorporated. I'm really curious about that, but I wonder if Nick and Charlie, the novella, is actually going to get tied in at all. So, especially to the end of Volume 6. But, like, I don't know if it'll be in this season, but, like, into Volume 6, I'm very curious. So.
You're muted.
Sorry, there was dogs barking. I said that's a really good point. And I don't know. I wonder if Nick and Charlie at all will get tied into the show.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Because, I mean, I was going to say it depends. I guess the hint would be, if there's going to be a season 4, to see what happens with Michael and Tori in season 3. Because if solitaire stuff is sprinkled in, then maybe that would hint that Nick and Charlie would get sprinkled into the last season, potentially.
Yeah. I think this
or
winter,
parts of it, at least.
I think this winter is kind of a given, but I think also because, like, that's when Henry is introduced in the
exactly.
series.
Yeah, that's Henry's introduction.
Yeah, so it's like, I think that just kind of has to happen. Plus, the way that they handle Charlie being at the hospital, like, the way that David is, like, a stark contrast from, like, Nick and everybody. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Theora.
Yeah.
I saw that eye roll.
Can we get rid of David as well? I mean, because we just got rid of Ben. So
Yeah, but
let's put David off too.
Which is interesting, because Ben is in solitaire, so I found it really interesting that she just, like, cut him out.
Yeah,
I wonder if it was the actor, though. Was it them not inviting Ben back, or is it Ben the actor?
Well, I know that he basically confirmed, along with Alice, that they said, yeah, we're not having Ben come back.
Yeah,
and I
think
know
Alice cut him out.
he is doing other things now, as far as I know. Like, he's got other projects he's working on, which I think anybody from Heartstopper, like, once they're done, they're going to be doing. Like, you look at Kit, he's doing a movie. Joe's on Broadway right now, so...
Yes.
Everybody's doing other things, so...
Joe's got multiple projects going on that
Oh my
are
God,
just, like,
yeah.
delayed currently.
Yeah. So everybody's doing other things. So... That's what happens when you're actually really good. Continue to be a successful Instagram star, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So Theora, you put.
Okay, so basically, now that we've kind of wrapped up, we're not ready, but we're ready for the end of Heartstopper, the show, and the volumes. We're gonna do a little bit of talking about something that Alice did. I think she did like Q&A stuff on like Tumblr. I think Tumblr kind of is where Heartstopper started, and I found it really surprising that Alice is still like true to like the Tumblr stuff and like releases the comic stuff on Tumblr before it's published.
I'm really surprised that she's still doing
It's
that.
amazing.
I'm surprised the publisher is letting her do that.
Mad respect to her. But so she did like she answered some like questions she was getting basically about Nick and Charlie and just the universe of Heartstopper. And so I just kind of wanted to see what you guys thought about some of these like that were in here. So one of the questions was like, what would Imogen and Isaac be like in the comic books? And like they're just book nerds. And I think that's so freaking cute. Also, I love that like Imogen's basically like going on about her book idea, and it's like in insane detail, and Isaac's not really listening, but also listening while reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and that is 100% a book he would be reading. So I love it.
How did you figure that out? Is it just like the
Zoom
cover?
in, it says it.
Oh, okay, got it. If I zoom in, it's gonna mess up everything. So
I love that she does it where the characters are answering and not her. I love that so much.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes. Oh, I love that too.
It would have been so much easier for her not to draw these things, but it makes it so much better. I love that someone asked her what the clothing swap between Tori and
Michael. Yes.
Michael would be. For some reason, I wanted to call him Matthew, and I was like, I know that's not right. I think it's Michael, but now I'm scared to say any name out loud. But yes, the oversized clothing on Tori. And then I didn't realize at first that they actually both switched clothing, and that the shirt is so tight on him.
But it's Michael. He's so secure with who he is. He's like, it's fine. It fits. I just love Michael.
I do. I love Michael so much. I'm so excited to see him in the show. Ugh.
Oh my god.
And then, oh my god, Nick and Charlie. Names, man. Talking about a wedding.
Their wedding. They're planning their wedding. It's
in
so
bed.
cute.
Just like this is their pillow talk.
Yeah.
I love that it's like in university too. So like indicating that Alice is like, oh, very early on they start like planning this.
Yeah.
Which is very cute and sweet. And like hints that like when they actually end up in the long distance stuff, that it doesn't actually disrupt them. It does actually, they do make it work. Cause like long distance is hard and it's not for everyone. So I like that she's hinting that like they make it work. Yeah. Which is really cute.
There's not a doubt from like halfway through the series on that it's like, oh, they stay together. So there's not that anxiety of will they, won't they. It's just how do they work through their relationship, through their stages of life. I love that so much.
Yes, I love that. Also, I love the details of the wedding. Like Charlie wants like a huge wedding, and Nick's like, that's tiny, and then
and 80 people. What?
80 people, and then he's like, do you even know 80 people?
Yeah. No.
And Charlie's like, no church, which I'm here for that. And then they decide to do it on a beach because that's where they decided to be boyfriends, and so I love that. They definitely need a beach wedding.
Yes. Something. The next one makes me just melt though.
Oh my god, so cute.
Someone asked what job
Nick would do.
They all have, but like she answers for Nick, and it's Nick being a teacher, and like this little girl like crying to him, and he's like, it's okay, tell me what happened, and he's just so understanding. I just like, he'd be such a great teacher. I love it.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I love it. I love the background too. She's like, well, he starts like playing like semi-pro rugby and coaching, and that's how he realized that he's good with kids and like ends up being a teacher. I love that the journey he takes. It's very Nick. And then Charlie. So we never talked about this on the podcast, but like part of Charlie's character is that he loves like classic literature. That's why he has like
Yes.
posters of like classic literature
He loves
books
books.
on his walls. And so he becomes essentially like an editor / publisher kind of deal, and he like specializes in historical fiction. Very Charlie thing to do also. So I love that he also gets a career that's very fitting of his personality as well.
It's so true. I love the pictures. Just Nick is just like latched on and while he's sleeping, and
Yes.
Charlie's just scribbling with the other arm.
Just so used to this, be like, yep, I know how to write one-handed.
Yep. Perfect introduction to having kids too, if they ever do have kids. It's like that's just you're gonna do everything one-handed. That's what my mom always said. Everything's one-handed.
Also, I think they do have kids because there's a pane later where it says like Nick and Charlie are getting ready to go to work, and there's like a quote off to the side that says, "Dads, hurry up! I'm gonna be late for school." So I think they do have kids. Is the implication, or a kid?
At least one, yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
They get the dog first.
Yes.
The next image is when Charlie, oh my god. Charlie gets a stuffed cat when he is born. And this is like his security animal. And then Nick finds it and asks who it is. And Charlie gets embarrassed and says no one. And then later, Nick is the one sleeping with it.
That's very cute.
That's love right there.
And then we get them in their 50s.
Yeah, and they look adorable and cute.
And they're happy.
And they're still together. And then we just get pains of them when they're older and together. And so we get the one that implies they have kids. And then their nighttime routine, which is literally falling asleep on the couch with 2 golden retrievers.
The dogs are amazing. I love it. That photo makes me so happy.
I never noticed there was 2 dogs. Oh my gosh, there are 2. They got another
There's
one.
There's 2 dogs.
Oh my god.
Well, Nellie, Henry, they gotta get 2. I want to know what the dogs' names are.
I think Daisy is one of them, if I remember right. I didn't know there was a second one, but yeah.
Alex.
Then there's them dancing at a wedding, and then we get Tara and Darcy when they're older, and just they're still together, which is cute. And it's them at Nick and Charlie's wedding, and Darcy like cuts all her hair off, and you know what? That suits you, girl.
It does. Those suspenders.
This also like the shirt.
Yes.
It's like this like colorful short sleeve shirt. Everything about Darcy is very on brand for Darcy.
She's very fashionable.
I know, she is.
I love Darcy.
And then another question was like, do either of Nick or Charlie get like piercings or tattoos? And so this is very them also. Charlie gets one ear pierced, and then Nick decides to get a tattoo of Nellie when she dies, which is a very Nick thing to do, to like get tattoos of loved ones when they pass away. That's a very Nick thing to do.
But he breaks it up before Nellie dies. He's like, maybe I'll do it when Nellie... And Charlie's like, maybe don't think about that.
Nick's all teary-eyed, like, I know how that feels.
Heartstopper always leaves feelings behind.
It makes you laugh, and it makes you cry so hard.
I know, just everything about it. So I think to wrap up our Heartstopper discussion for now, until the next thing that comes out, I think we need to rank this with the Lesbian Jesus hydration scale. This is our scoring system developed with gay science, which makes it super accurate method for determining how valuable a piece of queer media is to the queer library. Why are we hydrating? Because queer media, like water, is essential to life. So, how would you guys rate volume 5 on the Lesbian Jesus hydration scale?
I'm new to this scale, so...
Go first.
Oh, okay.
I'm very new to this scale, so...
This is just basically how much you liked it. That's what I base this
How
on.
important is this piece of queer media to you, like, in the context of all the queer media? Like,
am I allowed to say 1,000 out of 10? Because, like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Heartstopper's been in my life since 2017, and it was like 0.5 step on my personal journey, because I found it when I was like 20, and that was a long time ago now when I think about it. Gee, Merry Christmas. So I'm like, yeah, I'd say for lesbian Jesus hydration, 1,000.
Honestly, yeah. It's really hard to give Heartstopper anything other than a perfect score. It gets like Beyonce scores where it's like, if you ever saw like, The Good Place,
Yes.
where they were like, it is possible for something to be like 112% or something. He's like, that is possible. That's how you got Beyonce. Like, that's basically Heartstopper. It's like the Beyonce of like queer media, where like it's beyond perfect. Everything about it is just, Alice did such a spectacular job with this, and this volume in particular, I really, really love for all the reasons we've stated throughout this. It's just, it handles YA topics in such a beautiful way, and I love where Charlie's at in his mental health journey. Like, you can clearly see him growing, but still like processing, and Nick making the uni decision that was right for him was also so special. And we get like their first time together, and there's a lot of really good things that happen in this like short little novel, and Tori, the conclusion of Tori coming out, like it's so good. All the water.
I just want to point out that our first section is likes and dislikes, and normally we start with dislikes. We did not say anything that we didn't like.
There's no dislikes.
There's not enough of it. That's my only dislike.
Of course, it has to
Yeah,
be
there's not
10.
enough.
Need more.
And if you've listened, you know I don't give out 10s. Like, not even when we were watching did I give out 10s. I have been more understanding of the importance of this. You really can't not give it a 10.
I know. There's nothing wrong. It's such an important piece of queer media. Like, you just can't. It's lovely in all the other ways. Yeah. So we would all hydrate all the water for lesbian Jesus. Thank you, Alice, for giving us Heartstopper, for giving us volume 5 and a volume 6. The fact that it also didn't end here gives it more points.
And Alice, if you happen to be listening to this and you want to come talk to us about it, we'd be more than willing to have you. And if anybody listening wants us to talk to Alice, maybe just nicely, kindly shoot her on social media and be like, hey, talk to these people. It'll be fun.
We might die, but we would love to talk to you. Okay, so we're going to sign off from Heartstopper for now, but we won't be done with Heartstopper. We'll be back for season 3, depending on when that's going to... They've already shot it, so it should be coming out...
Like around the August time again.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, but at the end of the year. So we'll be back for that, and at some point we will cover Solitaire, because it's just such a good book. And volume 6, whenever that comes out. So plenty of Heartstopper stuff to come. Thank you, everybody, for coming along on this journey with us. And until next time, keep hydrating for lesbian Jesus.
And gay it up all over the place. Bye.
Bye. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube.
Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing super gay content.